When I was 23, I arrived in London completely broke and with no plan. I only had £50 to my name, no savings, a credit card bill of tens of thousands that I had racked up going backpacking for 6 months, and a very simple choice: make it in London or get on the next flight home back to Australia. Spoiler alert, I'm still in London. By 40, I owned two properties, one in London, one in Ibiza, built a business doing something I completely love that allowed me to quit my 9 to 5. I have investments, savings, and the most important thing of all for me, freedom of my time. I'm able to travel when I want, have slow mornings, only do work and projects that I choose, and live a very comfortable lifestyle in London. This transformation came down to a combination of both my determination to succeed as well as a series of very specific decisions I made and systems I put in place that I'm going to share with you in this video. Let's get into it. When I arrived here at 23 with no money, the easy thing to do would have been to go back home to Australia, move back into my parents' house, and live an easy life paying no rent while I paid off my credit card debt. But that was the last thing that I wanted. I finally felt like this was my chance to do something with my life, and I had no qualifications that would get me into any kind of decent paying job. So I did what anyone who was completely broke and had rent due would do. I went out and got any job that I could. Within 1 week of arriving in London, I was bartending in the evenings, folding clothes at the Gap during the day, making $5 an hour. Within 2 weeks, I had a sales and marketing job that I got purely based on my personality and vibes and talked my way in. So before I knew it, I was working 3 jobs at once, which gave me enough money to pay my rent and start paying off my credit card bills. The first habit that transformed my life and will transform yours too, that I really was able to leverage during this phase of my life, is networking. I arrived in London knowing absolutely nothing and no one. I had no time to socialize. So the only place that I could get into conversations with people was at my jobs. I'm a naturally curious person. I'm interested in other people. And this is a skill that I really believe that will take you far in life. It definitely has done so for me. Everyone loves the sound of their own name and telling you their story. And if you let people do that and genuinely listen instead of wanting to talk, then you will magnetize opportunities. The more that you make an effort to have real life conversations with people, and I don't mean sending them a text or a DM, I mean an actual conversation over the phone or over coffee, the more opportunities you'll be made aware of and have offered to you, the more you're going to be inspired by what other people have done and see what's possible for you to achieve as well. Make it a habit to constantly talk to people. Be genuinely interested. Ask people to lunch or to coffee. Cody Sanchez, an influencer I really admire, says that making one call a day will completely change your life in 3 months' time. So this is how networking changed my life. About 1 year into my life in London, a group of guys came into the bar I was working at, and they were spending some serious cash, more money than I'd ever seen anyone drop before in that location. And I was curious what it was that they did that they could afford to spend this kind of money. I got into a very long, involved conversation with one of them, and they told me that they were investment bankers. I have to admit that at the time, I had absolutely no idea what this was, but I was intrigued. I took his contact and I started to do my research. Up until this point, I had no idea that London was one of the finance capitals of the world. I honestly didn't. I was so in the grind of going to these 3 jobs and I had no time to do anything else or to socialize or even really discover London. So London being this financial capital was news to me 1 year into living here. Within a week of meeting this person, I had decided that I was going to be an investment banker. Because I had no real way into that world, I decided that the only way to guarantee a way in was to study for a finance degree. So literally within weeks of meeting this banker, I was enrolled into a finance degree in London that would change the entire course of my destiny. I'm not saying you need a degree to change your life, but the key life-changing principles that I want to pass on to you are that of networking and investing in yourself. Investing in yourself is the first investment that everyone needs to make before even thinking about putting your money into the stock market or other assets. You need to invest in the biggest asset that you are going to have for the rest of your life that will never go down in value, which is yourself. To get from where you are in life now to where you want to be, you need to level up. Had I stayed working 3 basic income jobs and never invested in myself, I would have found myself still today on this hustle of having to trade all of my hours for very little money and just about making ends meet. As a result of investing in myself, I was able to do one of the most important things that you need in order to start building real wealth, and that was increase my income. When I decided to invest in myself via a degree, I was making an investment in me that capitalized on two of my biggest skills: talking to people and maths. I was always good at maths in school, but I had never used it for anything. I want you right now to think about yourself. What are your biggest skills? What do you enjoy doing that can be turned into a money-making opportunity? These days, you don't need a university degree to become rich unless you really want to get one. So we're going to do a brainstorming exercise for you right now. Get out your notes app and write down what are your top 5 soft skills. Soft skills are things like being a good communicator, a good team player, problem solving, leadership, time management, anything that is a personal or personality attribute that you have that helps you interact with other people and navigate life. Next, I want you to write down 5 things that you are genuinely interested in. This can be anything from cooking to gardening to designing to cleaning to anything as simple as you have a matcha addiction and you love drinking it every day. Now, in between those 2 lists, I want you to think about where you can combine your skills with your interests and turn this into either a business idea or a job that you may be able to do in future. Next, I want you to bridge the gap between where you are now and where you want to be in 1, 3, or 5 years' time if you started to turn this income earning potential into your reality. What steps do you need to take to get there? Do you need to take a course? Do you need to get more experience or practice in those skills to feel confident enough to turn them into a moneymaker for you? Increasing my income through investing in myself was the number 1 life-changing step for me. It allowed me to get a job which paid me 5 times as much as the 3 jobs that I was doing before did. It also gave me the sales and business training that I needed to thrive when I started my own business. And you want to make sure that if you're using 8 to 10 of your precious hours to work, that you're getting the most possible money for your own personal skill set and your time. What I want you to ask yourself after watching this is, what is the gap between what I earn now and what I could earn if I had one specific, valuable, hard to replace skill? And what would it take to close that gap for myself? I'm not saying money is everything, but I am saying that your income is the foundation of your entire financial life. It determines how much you can save, how much you can invest, how quickly you can build a house deposit, how fast that you can reach the financial freedom that you're looking for. And if that foundation is limited, everything that you build on top of it is going to be limited too. So make a decision to change your foundation that you are building the rest of your life on. Because here is what I know from my own experience and from the numbers. The return on investing in yourself, the right skill at the right time, is higher than almost any other investment that you will ever make. Higher than property, higher than the stock market, higher than anything, because it compounds not just financially, but in every other dimension of your life. Once I finished my degree and was in my new city job, I wasn't home free yet. I was earning more, but I still didn't have good money habits. Until there is one habit I started to develop, which is the thing that also totally transformed my financial situation after I started increasing my income, and that is investing. A lot of people, especially women, put off starting to invest because they don't fully understand it yet, or they're scared that they will lose money. And I get it. I really do. I've also lost money when I made silly decisions. When you've worked hard for every pound that you have, the idea of putting it somewhere that you don't really understand and watching it potentially go down feels terrifying. But here is what I do want you to understand. The biggest financial mistake you can make is not losing money in the market. It is leaving your money sitting in a current account in your bank doing absolutely nothing while inflation quietly eats away at its value every single year. This is the risk that nobody talks about, the risk of doing nothing. You do not need to understand every detail of how investing works to get started. You don't need to pick individual stocks. You don't need to follow the market obsessively. You do only need to do these 2 things. 1, download an investment app of your choice. Just browse the App Store and take a look. In the UK, we have a lot like Nutmeg, Moneybox, Vanguard, all solid, beginner-friendly, and available on your phone right now. Next is you open a stocks and shares ISA within the app. And ISA keeps every penny of your growth completely tax-free. Then choose a balanced or global index portfolio. The app will explain you the options and set up a direct debit weekly or monthly, whatever works for you. And lastly, and most importantly, leave it alone. If you want more info on all of these things, I have an investing playlist on my YouTube channel. I will link it in the description box below for you to go and have a look to see which topics you want to find out about more. And that is it. This is what took me from literally never saving a penny to growing my investment portfolio to over 100K, which eventually allowed me to buy my first property in London and then my second property in Ibiza. It sounds overly simple, but that's because it is. The process of regularly investing and making it automatic is what builds real wealth over time and is the number one habit that I implemented after increasing my income that changed the trajectory of my financial future. You don't need to also increase your income fast before you start investing. That is a really important point to make. No matter how much or little money you make, putting aside small amounts of money every single week or month into an investment is going to completely change the trajectory of your finances and get you into good habits that will last you a lifetime. So the two key points that I've just shared with you in this video, number one, investing in yourself to increase your income. Number two, making investing automatic, are the foundation that everything else in my financial life was built on. The properties, the business, the freedom, none of it exists without those two things happening first. It really is that simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. If you're sitting there watching this and thinking you're too late, you really are not. When I arrived in London age 23, knowing absolutely nobody, £50 to my name and tens of thousands in debt on a credit card that I didn't know how I was going to pay off, I still didn't get financially serious until my 30s. And I still got financially free by the time I was 40 because of specific decisions that I made. The only thing standing between where you are now and where you want to be is a one decision, and you can make that decision today. Thank you so much for watching. I put out new videos on my YouTube channel every single week. So if you're serious about getting on top of your finances, give me a follow and I'll see you next week. Ciao for now.